I'm just saying, Danny, I'm happy that the tone has changed a bit on the being angry at the powers that be twisting us and making us do things and making the world a terrible place. Like you said, you know, you want to protest against George Soros? Go protest against them.
Yeah.
Don't volunteer to any of the bullshit.
Well, sometimes you don't have a choice to volunteer, but that's a choice also that you make. You make a choice when you take a passport or driver's license, and all these are all choices that we make. And as each person, we have to make a choice. I've been you want to make, but reality is what reality is.
Yeah, but the driver's licenses, though. I've been looking at a couple of things on that. There's one lady in California who actually doesn't consent anymore. She runs into trouble. She gets a car impounded every once in a while, but she has all the proper documents to get her car back.
Yep.
But she drives without a license and drives without, she has her own insurance policies and she can drive.
A good buddy of mine lives down Florida way. And there's an old timer, as he calls him. And he calls him, there's this old timer, which is funny because my buddy's about 75. And when he calls someone an old timer, that just cracks me up. That is a guy that no one will touch, who lives a couple towns over from him in Florida. And the guy has gone up against the system so many times and won. No one will touch him. He can do anything he wants. He drives around without a license plate on his car. No local cops. And he says every so often, but once every couple of years, there'll be a rookie cop who will feel all big and tough and blustery and, you know, will try and pull him over. And as soon as they call in, like he'll call in, there's a guy without a license plate driving a red Buick or whatever. And immediately dispatch to the cops. Says, well, just leave him alone, don't touch him, oh my God, you pulled him over. Oh, fuck. Because he takes him to court and he shoots them all. The post office won't deliver mail for him because he's been like, no, I don't consent.
He knows the verbiage.
Oh yeah, and like he's got it absolutely fucking nailed. Now, again, the guy can't even get mail because he does not consent to all the rest of the bullshit. So now the guy also can't travel. He doesn't have a passport. But he made his choice. He made his choice. I'm staying right fucking here. And he gets away with it because the entire fucking town is terrified of him. Like from like the mayor right down to the cops. They're terrified of him because he's sued them all so many times. Yeah, there's ways around it, but we make our choices in life. For me, I've got 4 kids. Yeah, I have a passport because I have to be able to travel and I have to be able to look after my family. And those are the choices that I make. And if I was a single person, I'd probably make completely different choices. If it was just me being responsible for me, I'd probably make way fucking different choices. But we all make choices for where we are in our life right now.
Of all things that piss me off is the freedom of mobility. That being taken away from us pisses me off more than anything. We should be able to go wherever we want to go, whenever we want to go.
It's one of the worst ones for me. It is on, and every time we travel, every time you have to cross a border, Nick says it is completely designed to dehumanize you. You instantaneously become a number. You are no longer treated with any kind of respect. You feel intimidated, and the entire system of travel, if you're crossing borders, is designed to completely fuck you over as a person. And
it's because people with skills that could actually go somewhere and make a difference in some countries that are struggling, other than just sending those people to the West to receive that help.
Yeah.
If people with skills like myself could travel to those third world countries and teach alternate energies, could teach them how to maintain equipment, the whole world would be such a better place. And that's what they don't want.
No, and that's what they don't want. And that was one of the hardest things for me back when I was really young and I was like a political protester and I was out there marching and protesting on the streets. And I had this idyllic view that they just don't get it. They don't understand that, we could change this. And then it wasn't until decades later that I realized they don't want to change the world. They're quite happy with where it is right now.
Well, they do want to change it, but for the worst.
Well, yeah, exactly.
They want everyone to make 50 cents an hour, and they want everyone to be bankrupt so they can put the next step in.
No.
Because if they're not bankrupt and we have a one-world government, they have no reason for military anymore. They've got to spend that money somewhere else. If they're bankrupt, there's a perfect reason.
Well, I mean, they're all fucking bankrupt.
I got a good one for you. Remember, let's see here. I think it was like 2-3 years ago, a video popped up of a conversation that happened in the Canadian Parliament. And they were talking about passports. And they're having a serious conversation about passports and where they're going to go with that. And someone brought up the part of the topic about, well, what about the zombie apocalypse? The zombies won't recognize passports. And it was a really humorous conversation, and they're serious about it. They're serious. Yeah. And the underlying thing in that was, well, we can't charge the zombies. we can't collect funds from them, and that's what I got out of the underlying conversation in that. And it was just hilarious.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no. When I saw the first time I saw that video, I laughed and laughed. And after I got over the absolute shock of the topic, it was like, what did they just say? I fucking laughed my ass off. But this is the whole thing. I mean, Malta got into huge trouble. It was when I was here last, so it would have been the winter of 2013 and 2014. Malta got into massive trouble from the EU for selling passports, because you can buy a Maltese passport that costs $650,000. If you have $650,000, you can buy yourself a Maltese passport, and even part of that can even go towards purchasing like property. Like if it was like half and half, like if you spent $300,000 on buying a residential piece of property and then $350,000 paid towards the passport, you got your Maltese passport. And the EU went fucking ballistic. Like they lost their fucking shit because the Maltese government openly announced it. And it was like one of the few times in international news that you get Malta get mentioned, and that kind of stuff, because Malta's so tiny. It just, other than historical type shit coming up, it really doesn't get mentioned in the news very often. The joke of that is every one of the countries in the EU sells fucking passports. They all do. You can buy a French passport, you can buy a British passport, you can buy a Belgian passport, German passport. The only thing is they're charging a lot more. To buy a British passport is like £1.5 million sterling.
Really?
Oh yeah. You can buy an American passport too, and a Canadian passport. You can buy a passport from any one of these fucking countries if you got the money. Malta got in trouble because they were doing it openly. And they undercut the price in the rest of the EU nations, which really pissed the rest of them off. So they had to blame them for being openly doing it, openly talking. You go on the Maltese website. You can go on the Malta website for the government, and you can find it's still up there. It's still written about passports. You can buy a Maltese passport for 650,000 euros.
Little piece of information that keeps popping up in all of this finance thing that I keep going down and keep trying to pull myself away from. They keep talking about going to economic zones globally.
Uh-huh.
And in that, it's like this underlying message of we're going to get rid of the political borders and we're going to be going to these political economic zones.
Mm-hmm.
Which is that's one of those gray areas that, okay, it's an evolution from this fucked up system that we currently have. And so that brings in the question, is it a recycle of the old system, or is it a moving forward?
No, it's not, because they've already done it. That's what the European Union was. The European Union was a test. NAFTA was a test. They've already set up these trade zones. So you've got NAFTA here. You have the European Union here. You've got the BRICS nations. Don't think that they're fucking separate. They're just another part of the system.
And they're back up on the news, too.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm laughing. I actually mentioned that in the news thing today. Okay? Where's Putin right now? Putin's in fucking Beijing for a major BRICS meeting with all the heads of the BRICS nations.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time as all this shit is going on, and they're fucking closing down the fucking consulate in San Francisco and basically declaring war. The U.S. basically declared war on Russia with that move.
Mm-hmm.
And Putin's over there buddy-buddy with China and India, and, you know, and you can't make this shit up. Like, you just sit there and go, fuck. But the whole thing of the economic zones, they've already been doing this. They've already been doing this. Making these little economic, that's why Russia pulled in the economic thing. That Russia has got their economic zone that they've built with Kazakhstan, one of the other stands, I can't remember. And Iran is looking at joining, and Syria is looking at joining, and they're making this lovely, like a free trade zone again. It's all in between these countries.
Yeah, right. And they have that, what is that, One Belt, One Road, and they've been doing, you know, running goods from, where is that, Beijing out to London.
Yep.
And they have the whole way there. They have to add in some new infrastructure, but it's there. It's running.
Yep. That's just the thing, right? So all these things are already being undertaken. Like I said, that's what the European Union was. Set up with the European Union was a major scale test of setting up one of these economic zones. And it's fucking failing. It's completely fucking failing. Well, like all of them are, really.
And like NAFTA, I think NAFTA failed. I mean,
totally.
That's why they're trying to redo NAFTA so they can have like, and I like how funny how Trump goes, Canada and Mexico are giving us a hard time, you know, getting stuff done, the deal done. Well, yeah, because you actually offer, you know, well, we want everything to be built here in America, and, you know, we don't want, you know.
Which is fine. Listen, so build everything in America. Absolutely. Right. One of the biggest downfalls that has happened to America is that they fucking shipped everything out to India, China, and Taiwan.
Right.
Right? But again, do they really want that? I mean, that's a lot of rhetoric that Trump talks. But do they really want that? Because then they can't keep the middle class pressed down into the lower class if all of a sudden you start building up industries again. So, yeah, we'll just see. But
now we're seeing deals like in Michigan where LG Electronics is putting a plant in somewhere in Michigan for automated car electronics.
Yeah.
You know, like, so it's starting to come back. I don't know how long it'll be. Yeah. So anyway, I'm gonna go and have a good night, Danny.
Thanks, Colin. Yeah, I gotta go too. I'm fucking starting to fade real fast now. It's like almost 1:30 in the morning.
I don't think the problem is the jobs moving. It's the lack of movement of people. Again.
Hey, again, Peter, I'm not going to argue with you. The whole thing, this is, okay, so we get it. Do we want to get into this right now? Fuck, okay, why not? People are freaking out over the migrant situation, right? And perhaps Canadians, we have a unique perspective because we have this massively fucking huge country that's pretty much empty, really, when you look at it. It's pretty much fucking empty. And then
into Toronto lately?
Well, no, but I mean, outside of the major cities, you get rid of Toronto, Montreal, fucking Vancouver, the country is empty. I have driven across the country from Toronto to BC multiple times, and I've driven Toronto down to Newfoundland a couple of times. So
Problem is the immigrants all come to Toronto.
exactly, but that's deliberate, and it's done on purpose. It's done on purpose because it pushes the agenda of the migrant agenda, which pushes the divide meme, right? You drop these people down in the fucking heart of Toronto. You give them $900 a month to live off of. You cannot find a fucking one-bedroom apartment anywhere in Toronto for $900 a month, let alone have food, money, or anything else. But you cannot. It's not physically possible. So then you have crime goes up, et cetera, et cetera. We have all these issues that come up. The problem is that it's a place like Canada, I've said for ages, Canada has got all the room in the world for immigration. Fucking let people come in. We have such a shortage of doctors in Canada. Now, I had, again, because unique experiences that I've had with meeting different people. I've met, in the last 10 years, 2 different people. One was an Iranian woman who was a fucking brain surgeon in Tehran. Top of the field brain surgeon in Tehran. In Toronto, moved to Toronto, spent 5 years trying to get her doctor's license to be a doctor in Toronto. This is one of the most smartest women fucking to walk the face of the planet. Like, she's seriously that brilliant. 2 different times she tried to get her license, and she failed because of the English thing. Because they have to write certain English exams. Now, the English exams, I'm sorry, I've seen them, are set up, you are going to fail. If English is your second language, it doesn't matter how well you speak the language, this exam, you will fucking fail. The other guy I met happened to be the boyfriend of one of my best friends. He was another. This guy was like a heart surgeon from Saudi Arabia. Came to Canada. He ended up working in a fucking grocery store. That this guy, again, was top of the line heart surgeon in Saudi Arabia. Worked for the royal fucking family. He couldn't become a doctor in Canada. Yet Canada has a massive shortage of doctors. Like, we have such a doctor's shortage in Canada, it's horrific. Yet here's doctors, fully fucking qualified doctors, trying to come to Canada from all over the world. And we're not just talking like GPs, general practitioners. We're talking like highly specialized surgeons, etc. And they're failing. They can't. And in Canada, if you try the test 3 times and you fail it 3 times, you're done. You don't get to try it again. Like, that's it. You're fucking done. And like I said, I've seen the test. The tests that they have to take are designed to make you fail. If English is not your first language, written English is not your first language, you're going to fail this fucking test. Because you have to have I think it's a 90% to pass the test. 85 or a 90%. And they make it all like, oh, it's because we're so safe with our medical. No, you're not all so safe with your medical shit. It's the fact that you've made it so fucking flawed. The system is a failure. Now, this is the whole thing, and I've said this all over the place. When we were living in the Congo, Nick went in, and he had a bunch of guys. He was given a team to work under him, and he had 4 Syrian guys. One was an electrician, and the other guy was a plumber expert, and the other 2 guys were basically construction, general construction. And they had a team of 25 Congolese guys that were given to them. Not one of them had a trade. So Nick went in there and had to build houses, and the first thing he had to do was train all the trades. How to tile a floor, how to put up drywall, how to do brickwork, how to do roofs, how to do electrical, how to everything. By the time Nick was done, his entire crew was so well trained, they were like freaking awesome because that's the way Nick is. Like, it's going to be, you're going to learn how to, I'm going to teach you how to do the job. I'm going to teach you how to do it at Canadian standards, not freaking Congolese standards. I will teach you Canadian standards doing electrical work. Now, one of the guys, we became really, really good friends, like to the point of like we pretty much almost adopted him. And Jouve spoke fluent French. His English was pretty fucking good. Nick had trained him in electrical, that to the point of when Nick left, he possibly could have applied as a journeyman in Canada and probably could have gotten by. But here's a young man, got no family in the world really to speak of other than a sister. And we talked about sponsoring him to come to Canada. Because here's a guy who worked so hard and all he wanted was a chance to make a better life. He wanted a chance to live somewhere where it was safe, where he could have a family, where he could work hard and feel safe and have a life. And I've always said, and I've always used him as the example, doesn't everybody deserve that? Doesn't everybody in the world deserve to be able to live where they want to live, to feel safe? And the problem is with all the migrant crisis, the self-created migrant crisis, is they have created a divisionary scheme that is ripping people apart, is ripping societies apart, is ripping countries apart. But it's been set up to fail. Everything, every aspect of it has been programmed to be a complete and utter failure. There's all kinds of people that we know, that we've met when we lived in Morocco, that when we were in the Congo, when I lived in Thailand, who would love to have the opportunity to come to Canada. And you know what? They wouldn't care. They wouldn't want to live in Toronto. They wouldn't want to live in Montreal. They'd be quite happy. The one family that worked on our property in the Congo, they were farmers by trade, and he was a caretaker. And if they'd been offered a place, like if they'd applied to come to Canada and they'd been offered a place working on a farm in Saskatchewan, they'd have fucking jumped at the opportunity and been like, fuck yeah, farmer, I don't care about the cold. We want out and we'll go to Saskatchewan and we'll farm, or we'll go take a job working in forestry, or we'll go take a job whatever. But they're not. What happens is they get dumped into Toronto, where they have no chance. They have no chance to be able to integrate, to be able to earn a living, and then it becomes the problem of the city. And the problem of the city then spreads to be the accepted problem of the country. And it does become a problem. It absolutely becomes a problem. But again, it was created that way to begin with. Because anyone with half a brain cell would say, if you have all of these people coming in from Syria, from the Congo, from fucking pick a nation, put them somewhere else. Don't put them in fucking Toronto. Go put them in. And I've said it for years. Farmers in Canada are having such a horrific time getting people to help them. So make it a part of the deal with Canada that if you want to come to Canada, you come on over to Canada, but you've got to work 3 years on a farm. And you get assigned, like, you know, an area, and you'll be put in it, and the farmers are responsible to making sure they're housed and they're paid proper wages, just like every other Canadian, properly. But they do 3 years working on that farm, and they learn it. They learn the language while they're there. They learn society or whatever, and then at that point, they can apply for their citizenship and they can become Canadians. God knows we've got enough fucking land in Canada for everyone. You could put the entire. You could easily put the entire world population in Canada and still have shitloads of elbow room. Seriously, Atlanta? Seriously, they still do that shit? Wow. Yeah, okay, well, Chris, that's exactly it. In Texas, with 3 acres each. I can remember a friend of mine, this went out, this is fucking at least 10 years ago, said the same thing. Even Australia, figure the center of Australia is unlivable, right? It's a fucking desert. You could take the entire world's population, spread it out all the way around in the habitable areas of Australia, give everyone a half an acre, and still have room to spare. That's the entire population of the world. Canada, we have more fucking room than we know what to do with. And we do not have enough people to run the jobs. They don't have enough people to run farms, which is why they bring up people seasonally from the Caribbean. And they come up from Jamaica and then Barbados and Dominican, and they get paid shit wages. I mean, just the shittiest fucking wages, because they come up to do a contract job, they work the planting, they go through this thing, finish harvest, they're shipped back down to the Caribbean again. And they take the jobs because they desperately need the work. There's no work down in the Caribbean. So these guys come up and they basically do slave labor in Canada on farms. But it doesn't help the farmers because they still don't have year-round staff. They still don't have people to do these other jobs. Yeah, Joy, I know so many. I know nurses, doctors. I know a guy who was from one of the Eastern European countries. It wasn't Russia, but it was one of them. May have even been the Ukraine. And he was a veterinarian. He was a horse veterinarian. And couldn't get a job in Canada because he couldn't pass the language tests. Even though he spoke really, really good English, again, it's a written test. He couldn't pass it, and he ended up like doing some fun crap job. The guy was a horse veterinarian. But the thing, and it goes both ways, and that's just it, Peter. This is the whole thing I say. I had this lovely family here that I know here who is from Zimbabwe. And they're like 6 generations Zimbabwe. Like her great-great-grandparents or great-great-grandparents came from Belgium and settled in Zimbabwe like in the 1800s. She's Zimbabwean. She's white blonde hair, blue eyes, but she's from Zimbabwe. She can't live in her own country. They basically had to flee Zimbabwe when shit got really, really bad. Would she go back? She'd love to go back to Zimbabwe. She would be so much happier if she could live in her home country because she loves Zimbabwe. Loved the life that they had there before the political turmoil got so fucking insane. I would gladly move to half a dozen countries in Africa. Like there are places I would move to. I don't care about ritzy, fancy places. Some of the places in the Caribbean I've talked about. Said, yeah, fucking Trinidad. I had a good friend of mine from Trinidad who said, you should go down to Trinidad. It's a really, really poor country, but it still has places where you can get in there and you can actually have a really decent life. I would love to move down, right? But you can't. I had huge opportunities. We could have moved to Barbados. And even though my father knew fucking everyone in the Bayesian government, you couldn't get a passport, you couldn't move there. Even though we could have set up businesses there, we could have done all this stuff, you just can't. So I think half the people that I know would prefer to live somewhere else, would prefer to be able to choose where they want to live. And don't we have a right to do that? Don't we have a right to choose where we want to live? I was born Canadian. Doesn't mean that I want to be fucking stuck in Canada for the rest of my goddamn life. Let me tell you. I don't know. No, I'm just rambling because I'm overtired.
Sorry.
You started it, Peter. You just had to hit.
I always do.
You just had to hit one of my ones that's one of my biggest peeves and gets me going.
I'm a troublemaker.
Yeah, I know. Go sit in the naughty corner.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, exactly, Joy. It costs dollars. Yeah, like I said, if you have 650,000 euros, you can buy a Maltese passport and come live in Malta. If you got like $1.5 million, you can go buy a fucking passport for Bahamas. But, you know, if you don't have money, you're fucking shit out of luck. Just fucking stupid. Disgusting. Okay, darlings, I'm going to let you go because now I'm really fading fast. I'm going to start blathering soon if I haven't already been blathering. Ha ha ha. I will talk to you all later. Bye, guys.